We're gonna start with sharing the screen. Now, who can tell me how I can access Microsoft Word? For those of you who aren't able to speak, just writing the answers, write the answers in a message here. Okay, so since apparently nobody answered, we have two ways of opening or executing the program. Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any other program really. The first way, we just open the Windows menu and then we write the name of the program and then click on it once, like so. Now we are greeted by the welcome screen. The second way is just to find where the program is in the desktop, like this icon here, and then double click on this icon. Now to open a blank document, we only have to choose from these templates a blank document. Okay, now we have the liberty to work on a new document. We have talked about these tabs, the home tab, what it does, how it's used, the different options it contains. I believe we've spoken about the different fonts, how to increase, decrease the size, either from the drop down menu or by using these two options right here, one to increase and the other to decrease the size. Okay, also I believe we've talked about, oh no, I don't believe we've talked about the text positioning. Okay, so let's review that before we move to something else. So these options here represent the text alignment options. Okay, here we have the align left options. So by default it is the one selected. We can see an example of this text. For example, if I write anything, it will be aligned from the left to right, from left to right. Okay, so let's try it. For example, here you can see that the text starts from right to left, or from left to right, sorry. Now I can select this text and align it to the center, like so. Now the text is centralized uh, in the page. Okay, we can also use align right option, like so. Now, who can tell me the difference or the use cases of these alignment options? Now, the align center is primarily, I say primarily, meaning that it's not only used for this case that I'm about to tell you, but the majority of use cases are for titles. Okay, generally titles should be centralized. For example, if I'm writing a book, or I don't know, any type of document really, the title more often than not is centered in the page. Okay, so we increase the font size and then we write the title of the book, like so. And then we either continue writing in this manner. For example, if the document calls for it, for example, an article, if we have an article, most articles are written either in columns, but for example, if we only have one column for an article, usually the column is centralized. It isn't written, meaning aligned to the left or the right. Okay, so this is just a single use case uh, for when we use the align center option. Okay, so let's, for example, go back to the default option. Now we've seen the different options in this tab right here. We've seen the options in the insert tab, and now we've also seen the option to insert pictures and shapes. Okay, one other thing I want to remind you of is that, for example, when you insert a shape, you can add a text. You can add text to the shape, like so. Right inside of the shape. Now the text this time appeared as white to contrast the blue, to be more apparent for us and for the readers of the document to see. Okay, so for example, if let's say we change the fill of the shape, like so, now the text is black to contrast the white color of the shape. So it does that automatically. You don't need to adjust anything when it comes to this. Okay, so let's now go back to this insert tab. We have the option to insert text boxes like so, just boxes. What is the benefit of a text box is that it groups text, and it is able to move more freely in a document. For example, if I want some text to be right here, I can just grab the text box and reposition it as I see fit inside the document. Okay. However, if we don't use a text box, then the text follows the format of the document, meaning that the text cannot be moved as freely as in a text box. Okay, that's the only difference. Now, let's move to the other slides now, or the other tabs. Let's open a new document. Now, before we try out the design tab, we first have to take a look at the layout tab. Okay, now the layout tab, simply put, for example, it allows us to change the margins of the document. Notice now the cursor is not all the way aligned to the left. That's because the margins are the default ones, a single inch from the top, left, and right and the bottom. Okay, we can narrow these margins here like so. Notice the cursor now jumped up because I've changed the margins. Okay, we can change the orientation of our document like so, from portrait to landscape. Now, landscape is used, for example, if you want to write a postcard, or I don't know, a form of a letter. For example, you can add more columns to your documents. The way columns work, let's just see an example. For example, let's choose 2 columns. Let's go back to portrait. Okay, and let's see how 2 columns will appear. Okay, let's go and try to write some gibberish just to speed things up. Okay, notice it jumped to the next line before it reached the end of the line, because I've chosen 2 columns. Okay, now if I jump the lines, now I can write in the second column. Okay, so the 2 columns, it will be like sort of like 2 pages. aligned next to each other. Okay, the first column represents the first page and the second column represents the second page. Okay, so the way you would read this, you will read the first line of the first column and then move to the second line of the first column. Okay, once you finish the entire column, you move to the next column, which is the second column in this case, and then you continue reading. Okay, so we can also use three columns like so. Notice here I have another empty column. When I finish writing the second column, it takes me back to the third column to continue writing. Okay, so one use of columns comes with the article file type. Okay, the articles, for example, most of them use two columns or more, if not more. Okay, there are articles that use a single column, but most of them use maybe two columns. Okay, to give you an example, let's just open an article and see the format of said article. Okay, this is an article with a single column. For example, this is an article that uses two columns. Okay, the majority of articles use this format. Okay, for example, the way you would go about reading this, for example, this we have this title, this chapter, related works. You read the first column and then you move to the second column like this, and then once you finish the second column, you go to the first column in the next page, and now notice we have the third chapter. Okay, so you finish reading the first column and then you move to the second column. Okay, just to give you an example. Okay, so we've talked about columns. We've talked about, for example, let's roll back. Let's remove the shapes and the text box. Let's just leave the title of the book. Okay, now we can insert also page breaks. Move to a new page. We can move to a new page like so. We can also change the size of the paper we work with. So most use the A4 paper. Okay, we can also go back or undo changes one by one using this arrow right here. For example, we can also use the shortcut Control plus Z. Control plus Z allows us to go back through the changes we've made. Okay, if you, for example, made a mistake, you shouldn't redo the entire document, or you shouldn't go back through the entire process or redo the entire process again. You can just undo the changes that you've made. Okay. Okay, so we can go forward using this arrow here, or go backwards using this arrow here. So let's choose the appropriate size, and then let's go to the align left option. Let's choose a more appropriate font size, and then now we can enumerate numbers, enumerate lines, for example, like so. You can choose none to not use not use line numbers. Okay. So another thing I wanted to talk about is you have to use the keyboard shortcuts, because they are faster than going back and clicking on these options. Okay. For example, Control plus N opens a new document, a new blank document. For example, I said Control plus N. Now I have a new file created. I can start working. Notice it is faster than clicking on File and then New and then blank document. Okay, it takes much more time using the regular way. So we use keyboard shortcuts uh, to make it quicker. Okay, so Control plus N is short for new file. For example, Control plus C. What does Control plus C do? Control C, it copies the text or whatever is selected. It doesn't even have to be text. For example, Control plus C. Now Control plus V. Control plus V, what it does is it creates a copy of whatever was selected and copied. Okay, so I used Control C on this text right here. When I used Control V, it copied the text that I copied, and then it pasted it right under it. Okay, because the cursor was here. For example, if the cursor was above the text, like so, if, for example, we use Control V, notice it pasted the text above the others. So we have Control C for copy, Control V for paste, and Control N for a new file. Okay, now let's try this on a picture. For example, we have this picture right here. For example, let's resize it. Now notice I have selected the picture. Now let's use Control C, and then Control V. Notice it pasted the exact same picture right under the first one, because the cursor was under the first one. Notice it pastes the items wherever the cursor is located. Okay? Now, the reason it pasted this one under the previous one is that there wasn't enough space for the picture to be copied next to the other one. Okay? Because the margins do not allow you to go that far. Okay? Notice the picture itself is uh, a little bit wide. It isn't apparent because of the white background, but we can't paste another picture next to this one. Okay? Now, as we've seen, the copy and paste options do not only work for text, they also work when it comes to shapes and pictures. Let's try it on shapes. For example, let's create a shape and then use the Control C. Let's use Control V. Now we have two shapes that are similar. Okay? Do not forget that these are shortcuts, meaning that you have the options to use without resorting to shortcuts. For example, if I click on the shape and then I right click, I have the option to cut, copy and paste. Okay, let's choose copy. Now let's click on paste. We have options to paste. Okay, keep the source formatting or paste it as a picture, as an exact copy of the first one. We're going to see the difference between the two options later. Okay, so now let's choose, for example, the first one. Now if I click on this here, notice now that for the first one I have the option to add text. For the second one I do not have, okay, the option. Now I can add text, or simply I can add a text box right above the shape. For example, let's use this one. Let's write in text. Now let's delete this shape right here. Let's copy the shape and now let's paste it. If we paste it as a picture, it is exactly that, a picture. We cannot modify the text inside this one as we can inside this one, okay, because we've pasted it as a picture, not as a shape. Now for example, let's keep the source formatting. Now I have the option to modify the text. I have the same exact options as I do in the original shape. That is due to me choosing different pasting options. Okay, you can paste the shape as a picture, meaning that you cannot use other options specific to shapes, okay? But if you keep the source formatting, meaning it copies the shape as a shape, you can edit the text, you can add all sorts of stuff, okay? So to continue with the lesson, we can use different shortcuts to facilitate uh, working with Microsoft Word. For example, when it comes to saving the document, for example, let's go with a simple document like so, title. Now, if I wanted to go, for example, and save the document, I have to click on this icon right here and then click on save as and then choose a destination. Choose a destination, for example. Let's save it to the desktop, or we can simply choose, click on Control Save, Control S. Control S is shortcut for save, okay? So in order to not go through the hassle of clicking on all these options and then for the document to be saved, we can simply use the Control S function, okay? Now we have multiple shortcuts we can talk about, okay? For example, let's write a bunch of texts here. If I want to select everything that is written in a document, we use Control A, meaning select all, okay? Control A selects everything in a document. For example, if I have a Word document and I want to copy in the entire document, we can use the Control A function, okay? In order to avoid using the mouse cursor and selecting everything manually, we just use Control A, Control C, and then paste the text wherever we want, okay? One other option, we've seen the copy and paste option. Now we can use the cut option. Cut option meaning it removes the text from its original position, and now you have the option to paste the text wherever you want. For example, let's centralize this, and for example, let's use Control A and now Control X. Let's jump to a different position and use Control V to paste the text. Notice the text is the same as the text we've removed, okay? We've removed the text using Control X. Control X removes the original text and gives you the option to paste the text wherever you want. Now the copy option just copies the text, it leaves it as is, and it gives you the option to paste an exact copy of what you copied of what or what you used Control C on, and paste it anywhere you like. This is the only option. Cut removes the original text, copy doesn't remove the original text, okay? So I believe this is enough information for today. We will do another session this week where we talk about the table of contents. Okay, the table of contents, we will have to go to the reference tab and we have to go to the home tab to review these heading options. Okay, so this concludes our session today. I will send you the information on the next session later.